If you're wondering why you can't just go out and buy a human being to do labor for you, listen up. Sounds perfectly reasonable, right? Well, it's not. It's slavery. People actually used to do this in the 1800s until the heroic and iconic man, Abraham Lincoln, came along and decided to put an end to it. Well, it wasn't that easy, but long story short, he did. Anyways, right around the 1860s was where he came into play. The country was splitting as the North hated slavery, but the South relied on it for a good economy. Abraham Lincoln was the man who administered the Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th Amendment, and allowed African Americans to join the Army. Now, you may not know this, but January 1st, 1863 was a very important time in American history. This was the time that the tall-hatted American man, Abraham Lincoln, presented and issued a little document I like to call the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation did three specific things. 1. Freed the slaves within the boundaries of the rebel states. 2. Shifted the moral of the war to surround slavery instead of just saving the Union. 3. Give blacks the right to serve in the Army for the Union, which I will get to later. It is a true statement that Lincoln had indeed no right to free slaves in the South, but did that stop him? No. Lincoln declared rebel states shall have freedom. It was also a misconception that no slaves were freed at all due to the Emancipation Proclamation, but this is untrue. For any Southerner or rebel state that was conquered by the Union were to become a free state. And although the Emancipation Proclamation did not instantly gratify the freeing of slaves, it ultimately did, thus giving the name of the great emancipator to the heroic and great man, Abraham Lincoln.
The 13th Amendment. 78 years ago, aka 1865, America was changed forever. For the better, most would say. The 13th Amendment was added to the Declaration of Independence, thanks to Mr. President Lincoln, who signed it nice and quick. Most say he led to its existence with his anti-slavery work and such. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment, shall exist within the United States, was basically what it said. And you know what that means? No more slavery. Nice one, Lincoln. It was passed in Senate on April 8, 1864, passed in Congress on January 31, 1865, then ratified by the states on December 6, 1865. Finally, they didn't work real quick back then. Now with this sudden flush of people, things are a little crazy. We tried to work it out and kind of did, but sadly, racism is still huge in the USA. Embarrassing, right? But this amendment was a big one, and Lincoln, you did it, man. Lincoln was the great emancipator because he signed the document ending slavery.
Now that slavery no longer exists and the Civil War is coming to a halfway point, the Union finds themselves full of newly blacks wanting to enlist. What harm could be done, thought Lincoln. Whites had stopped volunteering and blacks wanted to fight. Blacks were now allowed to enlist and join the army. By the end of the Civil War, over 200,000 black soldiers were enlisted and fighting with the Union. Holy moly, who would have guessed? This was a ginormous step towards a more equal nation.
Now, the Great Emancipator is a pretty hefty title for just one dude to carry on his own shoulders. But hey, Lincoln was pretty much the coolest dude around. He made the Emancipation Proclamation, which made slavery a national issue. Then the giving guy freed all the slaves with the 13th Amendment. And finally, geez, this guy never stops. He let African Americans fight in the war. Can you say equality or what? Well, not really, okay. But Lincoln persevered. When the Confederates said no, he said, watch this. Lincoln ridded our nation of the cruel practice of buying and selling human labor. What a cool guy. He really did it. Abraham Lincoln really is the great emancipator.